right. Density winds up being a ratio. Okay. Have you guys heard about density before? Okay. Density is a measurement, it's two measurements combined together. So it's mass combined with volume, and it's a comparison of two. How much mass do you have per unit volume? Okay. Sometimes we talk about how tightly packed an object is, how much stuff it has in it per unit volume. Units of density wind up being grams per milliliter. Make a note here. Grams per milliliter and grams per cubic centimeter are the same thing because a milliliter is a cubic centimeter. Okay. Grams per cubic decimeter is different. Okay. You got the equation here, density equals mass over volume. So one thing to mention when talking about density, the question is, why is it important to talk about? Density actually determines whether things are going to float on top of other things or not. I know we say things like the reason why hot air balloons float is that they're lighter than air. Lighter implies that you're only measuring one thing, weight. We're actually measuring two things. We're measuring the density. Things that are less dense float on top of things that are more dense. Okay, so the whole reason why hot air balloons rise isn't because they're lighter than air, it's because they're less dense than the cold air that surrounds it. And that's something else that's kind of interesting too. How often do you see hot air balloons in the summer? Not much, right? That's because the air is hot. So if you got a hot air balloon, there's not enough difference between the air inside the balloon and the air that's outside the balloon to get enough buoyancy, to get enough lift. When you get to the autumn, you start seeing colder air. So that means that the hot air inside the balloon is going to be hot enough to get enough buoyancy, to get enough lift out of it. Okay. As far as solving density problems, we can look at things visually. Sometimes we get a microscopic view like this. If each of these boxes has the same volume, which of these things is more dense? The one on the right or the one on the left? Yeah, the left is more dense, right? The one on the right is less dense. Can I go forward? Yeah. Okay. So here's where the bulk of things happen that get difficult anyhow. Math problems. The density of ethanol, a colorless liquid that is commonly known as grain alcohol, is 0.798 grams per milliliter. Calculate the mass of 17.4 milliliters of liquid. Did you write down the equation? All right. More or less, this is just going to be a matter of doing some nice math. If we're the original equation was density equals mass over volume, right? We want to find mass, so we got to rearrange the equation. Let's see, if I get volume multiplied on both sides, then I can get rid of it on the right. Volume times density is mass then, right? It's kind of hard to read up there, isn't it? All right. So if they're asking me to calculate the mass is going to be volume, which it reads as 17.4 according to the problem, milliliters, times density, which is 0.798 grams per milliliter. Do those things look like they have sig figs? Yeah. How many sig figs will we want in an answer here? I'm seeing 3s. All right. So the mass comes out to be, rounded to 3 sig figs, 1.39. And then if I'm throwing units on this, I've got to actually kind of analyze what's going on. Milliliters are canceling milliliters, leaving me with only one set of units, grams. That's a good thing because I was expecting a mass, which should be measured in grams. I typed it in wrong. So the decimal isn't supposed to be there. The decimal is supposed to be here because I typed in 0.0798 instead of 0.798. Thank you. All right. So this problem is fun, according to Patrick here. They say we got a volume of 60 cubic inches, which appears to me to be not in a set of units we can use, is it? All right, so I'm going to take that 60 inches cubed, and I'm going to convert that from cubic inches to cubic, oops, not inches, to cubic centimeters. Okay, here's what I promised I'd show you guys yesterday. Remember, we had to do this in 3 steps yesterday? Inches to centimeters, inches to centimeters, and inches to centimeters. Here's a quicker way to do it. 1 cubic inch is 2.54 cubic centimeters. I'm going to put this in parentheses just so it kind of looks like it's sticking together. Okay, so if I take that 60 and I multiply it by 2.54 cubed, isn't that the same thing as multiplying it by 2.54 3 times? Okay, so that should give me cubic centimeters. And it looks like I only want 3 sig figs here, so I'm going to write down 983 cubic centimeters is the volume of this rectangular metal bar. Okay. If we're going to calculate the mass, mass is still, did we just calculate mass in the last one? It's volume times density. So I should be able to take the volume of it, which is 983 centimeters cubed, multiply it by the density, which is 1.44 grams per centimeter cubed. And if you're writing down the units, you notice right away that these cubic centimeters and those cubic centimeters cancel. If you're not writing down the units, you might have tossed in 60 inches cubed in here and not noticed that the units don't cancel and got the wrong answer. Mass to 3 sig figs should be, let's see, 1,415, which I'm going to round to 1,420. The units on this is grams, right? Which we have to convert to kilograms. How many places do I have to move the decimal for that? Yeah, it says kilograms here, right? How many places do we need to move the decimal? Do you guys know? 3, right? So I'm just going to say that this is the same thing as 1.42 kilograms. Do I want the 0? Yes or no?